Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of The Long Voyage, number 24. This is part 3, the final part for this week. And we are located in an inn, around a table, with the second-born son of the Lotus Emperor and his bride-to-be and our erstwhile heroes. So, yes. You were about to discuss something with His Highness.
Yes, regarding...
rewards.
Yes.
Indeed.
Well, out of character, what can we ask? What can we ask for? What do we want?
I think. I think Thrody at least chimes in and says, "Well, we will be leaving by boat. I think, at least compared to your ships, it's a rowboat. But we are partial to silver."
Silver you shall have. But mere money does not seem like adequate compensation.
Belva shrugs. Well, to me it didn't really feel like a duty.
You are a good friend to Liling in that case, he says. And I appreciate that. And he looks to, and he says, "You don't need to make a decision right now. I do not expect to leave until tomorrow, so you have some time to consider if there is something you might like. I will naturally make sure that you have free passage back through my lands. I shall ensure that you have traveling papers with my seal on it. It will literally get you through anything you need to get through in the Empire on your way back." And he says, "But what about you?" he says, and looks to Cheng. "You have been a faithful and good companion to these strange people from the south. What reward would you like?" And there is a moment where you can see complete devastation spread on Cheng's face, like, this is it. This is, almost like this is the end of my life moment. And then there's
Poor boy.
And then there's fear and in a brief moment of indecision. And then he looks at Gylfi. And then he looks at Ilva, and then he looks at Frothy, and finally he looks at Sindri, and then he looks back to the prince, and he says, "I wish to continue in my lady's service." And the prince again raises an eyebrow and says that is certainly an unusual request. There is protocol to follow in this situation. And the very idea that a young man should be in the daily company of an imperial princess is, let's be very polite and say, unorthodox. And Cheng just shakes his head and goes, no, it is all I wish. I am nothing. I come from nothing. I am a person of absolutely no importance, no consequence, of no family, of any quality or standing, but I would dedicate my entire life to her happiness, if you would let me, my lord. And the prince again listens and nods and says again, I appreciate your earnestness, but I cannot breach centuries of court protocol. And finally Ah Cheng, just with tears rolling down his face, says, that isn't going to be a problem. And at that point Li Ling literally gasps as if, oh dear, something is about to happen. And Ah Cheng reaches up.
Gilfie looks terrified.
Ah Cheng reaches
What?
up and undoes he's kept his hair up in this typically the same style of hair really that you've seen quite a lot of young men wear it in, and he just lets it fall down around his shoulders, and he reaches up behind himself, almost up between his shoulder blades, and it does something with his fingers. You're not quite sure what it is, but apparently something underneath his tunic comes loose, and he's not supposed to have a bosom, however small it is.
Hilda just covers her face. How many men pretend to be women in this country?
What is with this country?
Other way around. How many women pretend to be men in this country and the other way around? Holy!
Ilva, please calm yourself. We are in the presence of royalty.
I'm aware, but this is so confusing.
Yeah, but you can't. No one is what they seem here.
The prince actually laughs at that, a genuine laugh, not controlled. He laughs out loud, and all of his soldiers suddenly look like they've seen, the impossible.
Suddenly, all the rain turned out to be fish all along.
Yeah.
Yes, it's obviously just Maho. That's what it is.
He says. He looks at all of you and at your reactions and goes, welcome to the Lotus Empire. Politics means that nothing is ever quite what it seems here.
I know, the sword pretends to be a woman, and Ah Cheng pretended to be a man. This is so confusing.
Oh, this is messing with my head.
I'm never gonna, look at someone and say, hey, you're female, or hey, you're a male, because this is just I don't trust it anymore.
Everyone, please give me a roll, a perception, and it's sight, it's vision.
Okay, Vision, this is going to be funny because she's not good at it. Wow. Nope.
So, Ilva is too confused to notice anything. But the rest of you can see the look on Li Ling's face in all of this is one of I suppose the best way to describe it is one of absolute regret, because she didn't want this to she had hoped it didn't have to come to this. Somehow, some way she had hoped this could be avoided, but I mean, it couldn't.
So, out of character, she basically she didn't want to. Actually,
there is
no
very real love on her face.
I was about to say, no, you don't have to admit that you're secretly a lesbian. be a bit.
Well-
That could be a little awkward.
Or bisexual, for that matter.
That's true, but
Yeah.
I suppose bisexual. Okay, so there's another possibility. But either way, yes, this is. Well, the point is, the cat's out of the bag now, so.
Yeah. Ola just rubs her face.
Thrody does too.
And now I realize how, I don't know if it's lucky or unlucky, we were living in the Southlands where men really, really has a hard time pretending to be women. And the other way around.
Except.
Yeah, sorry, please.
In Southland, Sindri mutters, except perhaps Gilfie, of course.
Ilva answers, yeah, maybe, but even here they would know.
Yes, Sindri nods and then says, and then addressing the prince says, Johannes, we are as surprised, I think, as you are, but we're not particularly, but as you can tell, we're not entirely put out.
He
This is just-
he is having an absolute blast. He thinks this is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks up, holds up a hand as if to, please wait a moment. And while he finishes laughing. And then he looks to his soldiers and says, all of you, out. All of you. And of course they look completely dumbstruck because, what? And he says, no, I am safe with these people. I feel as safe with them as I would with my own family. Out! And that goes for you too, he says, and looks at the soldiers from Lanwan. The rest of you, please stay. And they the soldiers leave, but there is... This is clearly, you can tell, this is such a massive breach of how things are supposed to be done that it beggars the imagination. This is just not heard of.
No.
And-
While the soldiers are leaving, Ilva just looks at Frody. That's serious. A day full of surprises. No shit.
The bones don't lie.
Yeah.
I
Gilfie
get-
just sighs and takes a drink.
I get the feeling every time you say that, something new is going to happen. Can you please stop saying that? Surprises about
Say
surprises.
more.
No, don't.
He says, he waits until the soldiers are gone, and then he looks to Sindri and says, please, could you go over to the door and just make sure that they are not leaning against it with their ears pressed to the wood.
Of course, Your Highness. And he does as he's yes, he goes over and stands.
Yes, and of course, when you open the door, there are 3 soldiers standing there with a hand up behind their ear, leaned in against the door.
Sindri has his arms folded and is decidedly looking down on them.
Yes, and
He's got the face for it.
And they obviously they stand there and look, but we have to protect His Highness. And then the voice of His Highness from inside goes, leave.
And as you said, and Sindri just nods as they say that.
see,
As if to say, you are the man.
The man who's clearly in command of these soldiers looks like he's about to have an apoplectic fit. But anyway, you close the door again.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He says firmly but relatively quietly to the prince, with your permission, Your Highness, I think I will stay here and keep watch anyway.
By all means, and he says, "I'm grateful for that." And then he looks at his blushing bride to be and the woman further down the table, and again he chuckles and says, "I'm sorry that I have to say this, but clearly you have not thought of a very simple detail in all of this. The man who arranged this marriage is Ren, the emissary of the Sword of the Dove. And I'm led to understand through all of your talks and your tales that you actually had the good fortune to meet Kanashi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm pondering if Ren also just pretended.
No, Ren is male, believe me. I know.
Wink, wink.
He just
Oh.
lets that hang in the air for a while.
Ulva just stands for a moment too long, like still
Guilty.
with a complete face of does not compute, and then just oh.
Guilty
Oh.
just was like,
So
Yep. mhm.
Ren felt, seeing as I would obviously need to marry at some point, propriety must be kept after all, and seeing as I would need to, he looks apologetically at Li Ling, I would need at some point in a few years when we're both older and so on. He says, we would have to do our imperial duty and produce a child or two. He says that's how it goes. But but other than that, he says, I am certain that I will grow incredibly fond of you. Everything Ren has said tells me that you are an exceptional young woman. You're intelligent. You're well read. You are artistic. You have a lot of good qualities, and I'm sure that we will be the very best of friends. And I have absolutely no desire to share your bed at night more than is absolutely necessary. And Li Ling looks confused for a few moments, and then she breaks down in tears. And they're tears of relief, that much is obvious.
Funny how things works out, huh?
Indeed.
Day full of surprises.
Stop it.
This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is just about the best solution that could happen. I must admit, I was simply wondering how long, young lady, that you would keep up the charade, he says, and looks at the entity formerly known as Ah Cheng. Because Ren told me about this before you even left Lanwan. I was perfectly aware of this situation. This is exactly why Li Ling is the perfect choice. So
This
I was
country
just
is so
waiting.
confusing.
I was just waiting to see how long you were going to keep up the illusion.
Yeah, Ren is so the emissary of the mischievous breeze. He could have told us.
Well, I think it's mostly Ah Cheng's place to tell us.
Well-
Guilty does not say anything. He just looked happy.
Well, poor Li Ling was in tatters.
This place is confusing.
And for that I do apologize, he says. But some things do need to be kept secret. This is also why I sent the soldiers outside. As far as they are concerned, I am here to meet the love of my life, and to meet the woman who's going to bear me a great number of children. And don't worry, he says, and looks at Li Ling again, I think we'll keep it at a reasonable minimum for both our sakes.
Ulva sighs, but I am at least happy that this place is so refreshingly calm about who people love. In general, not that all are that free.
We are less bothered by such things than many others. We see the same thing when we go to war with other swords. Their peoples are often, let's just say, not as understanding. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. You don't have to go that far back in the Empire's history before this was unthinkable as well. And as you can tell, I still have to keep up some measure of appearances.
Of course.
But you have done me, and you have done Li Ling a tremendous service. I cannot express how grateful I am for this. And you did say that you were fond of silver, and as I said, you shall have it. But I do urge you to please think if there is anything else I may be able to provide you with.
Just seeing the relieved tears on Li Ling's face is enough for me.
You are a good friend to her. In many ways, I'm sad that we will... I am sad that we will be saying goodbye tomorrow, but it is as it must be.
And then she eyes Arching with a look of confusion and still like I didn't see that coming either.
If I might,
Of course.
Sindri says over in his corner, and he's looking at the woman formerly known as Archeng.
Mhm.
Is it impolite to ask what your true name is? If it is Archeng or not?
It isn't, but it is Chen.
Ah, I see. Well,
Is Chen the usual name for females and Cheng male?
Well, Cheng is a male name. Chen is one of girls'
But it
names.
was very similar, so the jump wasn't that far. Okay.
I have been Cheng all my life in Lanwan. My father wanted a son, mostly because, well, my mother could not have more children after me, she explains. And that meant that the inn would go to, well, it would go to waste. It would be lost to the family if I wasn't there to take it over. A son would be needed to do that, but my parents loved me and realized I was miserable and unhappy and let me go to follow Li Ling to come here.
Roll the nuts. Alright.
Hmm.
But yes, as one of you mentioned, I was quite popular in Lanwan, and believe me, I have been spending the last couple of years practicing every conceivable technique to politely turn down young women.
Yeah, we heard.
Hmm.
well, it's going to get better from here, I think. I
Well,
wonder. I might divert to a matter slightly selfish, since Your Highness, you have asked what we might want aside from money. I would ask you for 3 things.
Let me hear them.
The first is, if it is possible, a small ornate box.
That is certainly easily doable.
Yes. The second thing, although this might be a little more, well, I say it would not be difficult for one such as yourself, I would like a bow in the fashion of the bows of these lands.
Again, that is absolutely something we can arrange for. He says, so far he looks a little surprised that you're not asking for anything more fantastic than this.
Yes. And thirdly, and this is something you have already given, so it is simple enough, merely the promise that our good friends should live their lives fulfilled with you.
Oh, they most certainly will have every opportunity to do so.
I do see your confusion regarding our how should I put this, our desires for things and rewards that you offer. You must understand this. We're not savage, but we are a simple people. We enjoy practical things in our lives, fast and sturdy ships, well-crafted weapons and armor we enjoy, and indeed silver, as we say, which in these lands I imagine is less valuable, but there is cultural and spiritual value in silver to us.
In that case, I shall be quite happy to honor your requests. In fact, please wait here for just a moment, he says. And he goes upstairs and comes down a little bit later, just a few moments later, basically, with a carved wooden box with a silver hinge on it, funny enough. And when he hands you the box, it's very elaborately carved. It's carved in depth, so that it's what's it called? There's a word for when it almost becomes three-dimensional, because it's carved deeply.
Relief.
Yes, it's carved in relief. That's exactly it. And the and he gives that to you, and it has this amazing scent to it. Basically, it's camphor wood.
Ah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives that to you and says, this has been a personal belonging of mine for a few years. I believe that's what you need. And then he says, I will also make certain that if it is possible to borrow your bow for a few moments, just if you could let me borrow it, so I have an idea of the strength of it, he says, in order to find a bow of similar power amongst my men.
Sidri, who is at this point just stunned by the personal importance of the box being given to him in the first place, he reverentially sets it down. He's in a bit of turmoil, because not only has he been given a very, very valuable personal item, but as a replacement to his own sentimental box, he's kind of overwhelmed. So he sort of wordlessly, he looks a little catatonic, puts the box on the table as reverentially as possible.
Yes.
And then carefully, because he's worried as he's doing this that obviously he has to undo his bow. They've tied it to his body. So the point is he's doing it slowly and carefully, just in case, because he's thinking if he does it quickly, somehow people are going to leap out of the walls and stab him.
Yes.
He undoes it,
yeah.
takes the bow off, and presents it to the prince.
And he takes it and looks at it, and it's definitely a different style, obviously. And he tries to pull it, but you can tell that his technique is vastly different. And he's having trouble with it until he understands that he needs to pull the bow instead of pushing it away from himself. And then he's, this is very different.
Yes. I've studied what little I can of the technique of archery in your lands, but I've not been able to copy it effectively.
He nods and says, well, may I ask you a favor? He says.
Of course.
May I have this? It is a fine weapon.
That bow has been with me for a very long time, Your Highness. It has been with me since I was much younger. It's been a weapon of hunting and of war, and it has seen me right through many years of my life. It has helped provide for my family and for my friends, and it has saved my life more times than I think I can count at this point. It means an awful lot to me. And so I think I would be privileged if I were to give it to someone such as you.
He smiles and nods and says, in that case, I swear to you that it shall be used in the defense of healing in the future. In that way, it shall still continue to do your work.
Thank you, Your Highness.
You're very welcome. And he looks to the rest of you and says, does anybody else have any requests?
Frothy, ask for the huffing herbs.
What?
No, not in character. Not in character, but no, it's just, he should...
Thrody thinks for a while and says, if I did not mention it before, I am a sight maker, or what you would call Hotsukai. Do you have anything that could assist me in that?
As I understand it, Maho is a very different thing for each person using it. In what sense assist you?
I do divination.
Yes, that. As far as I know, I am not an expert, he confesses, but as far as I know, that requires lengthy rituals. But I suppose I do have an idea, he says. I can't procure it right here and now, but I will have it tomorrow morning before we leave.
But yes, of course. Thank you.
And he looks to Gylfi and to and again to Ilva to make sure that if they have anything they would like to ask, then
Gylfi just said, like, thinks there for a second, looks at looks at Chen, and it's like, I already gotten all you might have wanted.
you are modest people. I admire that.
Maybe something to remember Liling by.
Ah, yes. That I believe would be a good idea.
Also, you ask. She is looking at Liling now. You also ask something to remember us by.
Yes.
And I will give you this. She finds the picture that were made of her and hands it to Liling. And then smiles. Always your sister.
Liling takes it and again tears start rolling down her eyes and down her face, and she embraces Ilva, deeply grateful for this, and she takes out that little lacquered tablet she wears, that she's carrying around. It's a folding tablet with a wax surface inside, so that's the one she writes on. And she takes that and she writes on that. She writes, "Always your sister, all of you," and then she closes it and she hands it over to Ilva.
Thank you.
And then she shrugs and looks at her future husband because now she can't talk.
I think Thordy goes to her as well
Yes.
and hands her his Taffel game and says, "Make sure to beat anyone who challenges you."
She actually, she claps her hands in enthusiasm because she loved that game. And actually, AG looks at that and goes, "You will have to teach me how to play that." Is it a complicated game? Yes. And Li-Ling shakes her head and looks at all of you and suddenly looks like right now she needs something to write on. And then she just looks sadly at Frothy with this whole, "Please, can you explain what this game is all about?"
I think it's not needlessly complicated, but it has a lot of depth and understanding you can get into. One plays the defender and one plays the attacker.
Ah, so it's a game of strategy.
Yes, it is my favorite, and
Excellent, he says. That sounds like a very good game. I shall enjoy this. And then basically you have this very heartwarming moment of exchanging gifts and again he did tell Frothy to please be back the following morning for whatever it was that he has, and that's really what happens is he does tell at one point Sindri to please let his worried soldiers come back in before they die from consternation.
Yes,
there.
of course.
And then
of course,
and he does give you all a wink and as he does so this has been it's clear for him this has been a wonderfully free-spirited and non-oppressive situation where he hasn't been bound hand and foot by all manner of rules and etiquette and bullshit.
yes.
I imagine it's actually quite nice for Li-Ling to see him in that state as well.
She is
Yes.
she is in a
Yes.
completely different state of mind than she was when this thing began.
Yes.
She's gone from the brink of utter despair and despondency to having had everything she hoped for saved at the last moment. She's very happy indeed, which obviously shows on her face when the soldiers come back in and they can see how pleased she is with the situation.
Yes. Before we get quite that far, there is one thing
Yes.
Sindri would like to do. His gift to Li-Ling is quite important. He has something to say about it.
Oh, right.
Say it's sort of important, but the point is he reaches into his he's got it on his person. He hasn't. I think he's had to put his knapsack down somewhere, but he's
Yes.
got one of them with him. He takes out another of his Outlander metal Bodkin arrowheads because remember he gave one back to see, it's been so long I can't even remember the poor man's name. Blind fellow.
Yes.
in Tirglas.
Yes.
As a means to end it if he needed to, but also as a reminder of him. He's going to give one to Li-Ling as his reminder to him, and he explains to her that this doesn't look like much, and please be careful, it's sharp, but this is of the metal of my lands. It is a tiny piece, but I entrust it to you because I know it's in good hands. This won't go to others.
She looks completely almost awestruck because obviously she's traveled with you now. She knows what this means. She knows you're not allowed to do this and you're doing it anyway.
It's a case of
this is the ultimate sign of trust.
Yes, and as he does quietly make a joke of saying, "Who better to keep the secret than someone who doesn't speak?"
She smiles, and she takes it, and it immediately vanishes into one of her sleeves along with her hand.
Okay, yes. So and then that's his gift.
Yes.
Yeah, that's his gift to her.
And then, as I said, the rest of the afternoon and the evening is is actually spent. It's actually quite pleasant. Nobody actually seems to really take notice. Well, that's a lie. None of the prince's soldiers notice Archen's change because they only just met her anyway, and it's like, well, no, whatever.
They didn't really notice before.
Exactly, because it's
so...
just another commoner, and there are you guys to look at. But your friends, the soldiers from Lanwan, are like, what? What happened?
Then I can wink at them gleefully all night.
and
Ilva just goes, ta-da!
yes.
Yes. Sindri is half tempted to point without saying a word, just point emphatically at Frothy and say it's his fault. It's his fault that she's like that our Cheng is now a woman. It's his fault. Blame him. Yeah, Maho. Moo.
In case more winking.
Oni.
Because, you know.
Winky dink.
Oh, that could be so much fun. Yes, totally blame Frothy. Whenever they look weirdly at Archeng, just point at Frothy and mouth the words, his fault.
His fault. So, anyway, next morning, before everyone leaves, there is something brought to you, to Frothy. It is a staff. It's not a long staff. It's about it goes up to about your chest. It is made from a kind of wood you've never seen before. It's kind of gnarly and looks like, quite frankly, it looks like if you hit someone over the head with it, you'd probably crush their skull with considerable ease. It's also very heavy.
Oh.
It's like really heavy. And you are told by the prince when he gives this to you that this, he doesn't know how it works, but he's confident that you can figure it out, that this staff is used to commune with the dead. And
really?
that is a method used in the rituals that he mentioned for divination by Mahotskai.
Throdi definitely thanks him. That would be immensely useful, he has no doubt.
And basically it's made of ironwood.
Ah.
Woo!
Yeah, that is very difficult to actually break.
Yeah.
Practically impossible. So yes.
Is Sindri going to get a replacement for his bow?
He does. He gets a bow of similar draw strength. But of
Excellent.
course, it's the whole thing of you having to actually push the bow away from yourself instead
That's
of close. However, this is a higher quality weapon than what you had before. A bow is not obviously it's not a metal weapon.
No.
It's made of wood and glue and lamination and all these things. It's not made of metal. Consequently, Southlander bows are not the most fantastic bows in the world. They're good, but they're not the best you'll ever see. This bow is taken out of the hands of a member of the imperial bodyguard of a prince of the Lotus Empire. It's better quality than what you had before, however much sentimental value it might have had. So
Yeah.
it's 1 higher damage.
Ooh.
Actually, what kind of bow was it Sindri had before?
A longbow.
A longbow.
So basically the same kind of bow Ilva got.
Yeah.
In that case, you will hand the good prince 10 arrows because they have red feathers.
All right.
Ah, yes.
Special arrows.
Right. He thanks you very very sincerely for these and promises that they will be put to good use. And he bids you all, after all of this, he bids you all a very, very fond farewell and says that he wishes for you to have great fortune in whatever journey you will undertake now, and that and that he hopes that you know that when you leave here, you do leave with his gratitude. And then Li Ling comes around to each of you and gives each of you, you know, a warm embrace, and then they both get into. He's got a horse. She has a litter basically to be carried in, and they set off.
Gilfie would just like to exchange two words with Ken before she leaves.
Yes.
It's basically when if they are like not alone but like on the side.
Of course.
He would just give her a hug.
And she hugs you back, obviously.
Yeah. Gilfie's like well, one of us got their plans right, at least.
You should too. She says, you really should. You deserve it. I will never forget any of you.
Yeah, Gilfie just like he just nods to her, gives her a small like peck on the cheek, and is like, "Well, powers damn it, I have fallen for a Cheng. I'm just happy for a Chen." And he leaves.
She smiles and laughs and gives you a peck on the cheek back, and then lets you go. And then she has to follow, of course.
Yep.
So, I think with you. Sorry.
Quick.
Yes.
Just because Li Ling probably has gotten very used to her new adopted sister
Yes.
doing weird stuff. Last thing they hear before they're out of this tiny, in quotation marks, village, they hear a lot of commotion, and Ilva saying, "Oops."
Dear.
What did she trip over now?
Probably one of the very small tables or something there.
Something, yeah, along those lines. In any case, with you all standing there waving goodbye to your friends and, you know...
apologizing profusely to whoever had that booth I just tripped over.
Indeed, and looking, you know, to the soldiers with whom you are now basically set to go back to Lanwan. I think we're going to end tonight's session here, and we shall be back in a week with more The Long Voyage. And for the players, I think, let's say, this was obviously sort of a mini story arc that got concluded here, so I'll give you 4 XP for tonight, and I will see you all next week for more of this. And
Yes, please.
for our listeners out there, thank you for listening in. Please be back next week. Like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, tell all your family, bring your dog, bring your cat if you have one of those horrible things.
Yes.
Or rat, or mice.
Any, basically, however many, but just, you know, spread the word of us, because we really do like to have new people come by and, you know, listen and leave comments and so on. And yeah, on that note, from me and from the players, till next week, bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.